over 55 years, your source for agribusiness news and features from around the Southeast and across the country, focusing on one of the nation's top industries, agriculture. The Farm Monitor is produced by the Georgia Farm Bureau in association with Abraham Baldwin Agricultural College.
Well, chances are you didn't miss us, but Jennifer and I, we really missed you. Been thinking about you all week.
Yes, glad you're with us. Glad to do what we do, and that's bring you the very latest in the world of Georgia agriculture. Straight ahead, as harvest season nears, farmers face a tough challenge with labor shortages and rising wages. Therefore, it begs the question, can the H-2A program provide the solution they need? As Georgia's citrus industry grows, so do new challenges and fresh opportunities. John Holcomb takes us inside the Georgia Citrus Association's conference to explore the future of citrus in the state. And then later, from the early days of crossbreeding Angus with Herefords to the innovative practices that have shaped his farm, this Georgia cattleman shares his journey and insights into the future of beef production. These stories and so much more right now on the Farm Monitor.
With harvest season fast approaching for some of Georgia's most labor-intensive crops, questions remain about worker shortages and the rising wages farmers must pay. Damon Jones explains how the H-2A program has both helped and complicated the situation for growers.
Over the next few months, some of Georgia's signature fruits and vegetables like peaches, onions, and blueberries will all be ready to come out of the field. And in order to maximize both quality and quantity, it's essential to have a reliable workforce.
You have to have enough labor there on the busiest day to get them harvested, to get them packed, do the timely work. It's so timely to have harvested at the right day. So we're always very conscious. That's our number one issue behind probably weather is the labor availability.
That's where the H-2A program comes in, as it helps supplement a small number of domestic workers while also complying with stronger immigration policies.
If we're going to continue to feed America with American-grown crops and vegetables and fruits, we got to have a labor force. And unfortunately, we don't have a domestic force to do that now. And so that is why we've transitioned to this H-2A program. You see other industries desperately wanting that with our shortage of labor in this country. And so this has been a good program for us. It's kept us all 100% legal.
Despite their workers being documented, many Georgia farmers are hoping there can still be some compromise on the recent immigration crackdown.
I hope the administration can look at the history of some of our workers in whatever industry they're in this state who have been here for many, many years, have contributed to the economy, have families here, maybe even homes and things, and maybe give them some pathway to citizenship, some legal status so they can continue working and helping our industries.
Labor shortages aren't the only concern, as growers have seen wages increase exponentially over the past few years, which has opened the door for more foreign competition.
So far, we haven't had any real issues, a few little hiccups, but that program has worked well. I hope it's no changes to it other than trying to get some costs back in line. Those costs for us have gone up over 30 or 40% in the last 2 or 3 years. It's just raising our grower costs to not be competitive with foreign imports. And so that's one of our big concerns.
And it's a concern that will likely continue into the future unless some changes are made to the program.
If we don't have that labor and don't have it at a competitive rate, it's just going to make foreign imports from Mexico and Chile and South America much more available to domestic and grocery stores. They're going to be less cost, and our industry will just really go away if we don't do something to stem it.
Reporting from Atlanta, I'm Damon Jones for the Farm Monitor.
In the past decade, Georgia's citrus industry has really taken off, now home to over 500,000 trees. John Holcomb has been following this upward trend and reports on what's next for this growing industry.
In Tifton recently, citrus growers gathered for their annual conference. This year's theme, Growing Georgia's Citrus Future. A fitting one, as attendees got to hear from experts and industry professionals on how to keep the citrus industry thriving in the state for years to come.
It's not only a membership meeting, but it's a conference to talk about, the challenges that Georgia citrus has had and just how we can work to cultivate success. And it's important to come and, network, not only network, but just hear about the latest innovation and technology and what other people are experiencing. That's how you grow and that's how you learn is to hear from others and try to not make the same mistakes and come up with ways to solve problems.
One problem that's on the minds of most producers is citrus greening, which has decimated more than 80% of Florida's citrus industry. However, there is research being done that will hopefully eliminate the disease and will greatly benefit the industry in Georgia.
It was 4 or 5 years before we realized we had it. And by then, it had spread throughout the entire state. And the Florida Department of Agriculture declared that it was not able to be eradicated. We were going to have to try to live with it. And as we've seen, that has been very, very difficult to do. We do have a number of therapies, though, that are working, and these are therapies that we hope are going to keep our industry alive long enough to where this tree of the future, this resistant tree or a tree that's more tolerant, is going to bail us out once and for all. But what I mean for Georgia is that you're going to be the beneficiary of this long runway. In other words, you have many years before your disease is going to become endemic if it ever gets to that point. And my message today was don't let it get there. Your goal needs to be eradication. You can still do it.
However, despite those concerns, Savelle says growers are still optimistic about what the future holds for the industry. As she explained, there is some excitement around expanding from just being a fresh fruit industry to possibly a juicing one.
I just see that this industry in Georgia is just going to continue to grow, continue to, diversify. We are likely going to have a window of opportunity to go into the juicing industry as well as the fresh fruit industry. Florida has become known more for its juice industry, whereas Georgia has been fresh fruit, but I see that kind of turning the corner a little bit. And it's not only South Georgia, but it's North Florida that we're joining forces together to kind of make this a regional citrus industry. And I think those are all good things. Anytime you can collaborate with another state and have a bigger footprint, that's a good thing.
Reporting in Tifton for the Farm Monitor, I'm John Holcomb.
After the break, it's Kenny Burgamy's one-on-one with Danny Bentley, a Georgia cattleman with deep roots in the community and a legacy of innovation.
Who does the beef checkoff support? The entire beef community, including independent producers. There are more than 800,000 beef producers in the U.S., both big and small, and it's tough to think of many that would not consider themselves independent. Consider your neighboring cattle ranchers and farmers. They make their own decisions for their operation, just like you do. State and national board members are beef producers, primarily independent cow-calf producers with operations of all sizes, from those who pay tens of thousands of dollars a year into the checkoff to those who pay much less. And here's some beef for thought. Whether it's a beef checkoff funded video circulating on social media or a dietitian visiting with health influencers about beef's nutrition benefits, the message is about beef, not the size of the producer. The checkoff doesn't differentiate from size of the farm or ranch the beef comes from, nor by production practices. At the end of the day, beef is beef, and the checkoff is working hard to drive demand for all of it in the U.S. and around the world. To learn more about the beef checkoff, visit drivingdemandforbeef.com.
This week, we bring you Kenny Burgamy's one-on-one with Upson County cattleman Danny Bentley, a true pioneer in Georgia's beef industry. With a legacy that spans 6 generations, Danny has dedicated his life to the land and the cattle industry, evolving from crossbreeding Black Angus to becoming a key figure in the Cattlemen's Association. In this insightful conversation, he shares his views on the current state of beef production, the importance of quality assurance, and the changing demands of the public.
Danny, tell me about the herd that's behind us. What are we looking at?
Okay, we're primarily Black Angus. Started off in the 60s when I was showing calves and showing some steers and some heifers. We had Herefords back then, had some registered Herefords. Come out of the Army and decided that we needed to crossbreed, so we put some Black Angus bulls on our Hereford cows, and probably none of those left from the 60s. Maybe a few descendants out here. So that's where this herd come from. We had all those black white-faced calves that were bringing about $100 back then, more than straight bred. And so we just fell in the love for Angus.
Your work with cattlemen's is legendary, really. You've done so much in the area of that. What is the status of where we are with beef and cattle today?
You know, obviously prices are great. I think, you know, I get all the publications, watch RFD and you guys all the time. I really believe that we're going to see at least 3 to 5 more years of this. I don't know about tariffs and things like that, how it's going to affect us, probably the crop folks more than we will be. But I really see that length, maybe even further.
What changed the dynamics with beef being so strong right now? What was the change, say, 5 years ago?
Well, probably the public demands more of us. That's what I see. And obviously we all are trying to raise the kind of beef, you know, the way the public expects us to, you know. Obviously we're BQA certified, so we believe in the Beef Quality Assurance Program. I think things like that, each breed, not just Angus, I think they're pretty close to the top in that leadership, but I believe all the major breeds have led in that direction to make it better.
The marketing efforts on beef, I see you got the cap, beef, it's what's for dinner. Did that make a real change in America in the way they perceive beef and the image of beef? Absolutely.
I'm trying to think, it started probably, I'm thinking 20 years ago maybe. You know, the race in Daytona. Oh boy, what a remarkable advertising tool that is for beef all over the world. Yeah, absolutely.
Your favorite beef? What's your favorite steak?
Ribeye. I love a ribeye. I don't know why. So I love it all, but obviously we put up our own too, along with what we were selling through the restaurant at the time.
This is a beautiful area here in Upson County. So give me the history.
Okay, so my family moved on this property in 1823, so that would be 6 or 7 generations. You know, my boys and kids would be the 6th, you know, and that year would be the 7th. So my grandmama and granddaddy moved in the house that we were looking at down here where the chimney is, on where all of my equipment, all my barns are. They moved in there in 1898. Had their first child there in 2 weeks, and then raised 7 children, including my dad, which was the 7th on this property, and we've been on it ever since. So it is a beautiful place, and that's why we try to take care of the land, the stewardship issues of it, you know. It makes it sustainable, yeah.
What's going to be your legacy? You're leaving a lot with your children who are very intimately involved in agriculture and agribusiness. What do you see this in 10, 15, 20 years?
I believe my children will stay on the farm, even the son-in-laws too. So I guess as far as the legacy was concerned, is that I leave this place better for them than it was for me coming up. I mean, my daddy left it good for me, but there was a lot of work to be done We were no-tilling in the 60s when nobody else knew what no-tilling was. We were planting on the contour when nobody knew what it, thought about it. And so we've been pretty innovative all these years. Yeah, so that would be my legacy, is to leave it better than talking about farming.
Danny, thank you so much for your time. It's a great pleasure talking to you.
Thank you. Pleasure talking to you.
Appreciate what you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One of the nicest human beings you will ever meet. Great job, Kenny. Up next, it's off to Henry County to see how a local library is stockpiling more than just books. They've also established a unique effort to help locals learn about agriculture as well as educate the next generation.
Hey y'all, the Georgia General Assembly has convened again in Atlanta, and because Georgia Farm Bureau is the voice of Georgia farmers, we at the state capitol every day standing for farming families across the state, just like we've done since 1937. Our mission in Georgia Farm Bureau is to work with elected officials by ensuring farmers are able to produce exceptional products that feed families in Georgia and around the world. Our commitment has always been to the producers in our state, enabling them to provide safe, fresh food and fiber that we all need to survive. Thank you for supporting Georgia Farm Bureau, and if you're not a member, consider becoming one now by scanning the QR code you see on your screen or visit gfb.org and look for the Join Today button. Thank y'all again.
When you talk about a cherry, I think of a coffee cherry. Really ripe, really red, really juicy. If you grow it in the shade, you get more flavors and more aromatic compounds. Brings out the labor of many, many hands together, which just makes for a rich, beautiful cup of coffee. When we started the farm, we really didn't catch a break. Dealing with hurricanes is an ongoing problem. We thought we were not gonna continue on. But no matter how rough and how bad it got, we knew to be a generational farmer, we needed to be climate smart.
The Partnerships for Climate Smart Commodities program is changing coffee in Puerto Rico. We think that the 20 climate smart practices that we're promoting, such as planting shade trees, wind barriers, cover crops, all these things that help sequester carbon, it will also reduce the costs to the farmers, increase their revenues, as well as open new markets for Puerto Rican coffee.
It's a little windy now, so we can have an idea of what this will provide for us in the future. So these trees are about a month old, and when they get up to 2 or 3 years old, we'll be protecting and creating that wind barrier for our coffee trees. The way we see the future is that, we come together and we want to produce a better cup of coffee with climate smart practices for the next generation. That baton will be in safe hands, I feel, and we'll have specialty coffee from Puerto Rico for years to come.
Finally, this week, we leave you with a story about a special type of project in Henry County, where people of all ages and all walks of life are coming together to learn about agriculture in a place you might least expect.
We still have some onions going.
This garden may not look like a lot right now, but soon it will bloom.
We also have the pecan and black walnut trees that were here before the library was ever built.
You heard right. This is a library.
So this is the kids' room.
Fairview Library in Henry County, to be exact.
We've just gradually expanded a little more each year, putting in a few more beds. And now we finally got the faucets around that are going to make things so much easier for them to water.
But it didn't always look like this. Over 20 years ago, they started this community garden with special purpose local option sales tax, or SPLOST funding, and just 2 edged boxes.
And then the recession happened, budgets got cut, so the boxes just sat there all that time.
Apart from the occasional children's program using the boxes for archaeology lessons, the boxes sat unused for years until an idea sprouted.
One of the women in the craft program said, "I wish I didn't have to go all the way to McDonough for my community garden." And I said, "Hey, we can do something about that."
They've overcome hurdles like invasive weeds, fire ants, and carpenter ants too. She says their local Parks and Recreation Department added these metal planters, and raised beds helped alleviate some of those issues.
But there's something to be said for having a community of others that you can get together and talk with and share knowledge with.
She says it's ultimately all about education when it comes to the library.
This is the new seed library. It's all in binders, flowers and herbs, and then 2 different binders of fruits and vegetable seeds. So the idea is people will take seed, but then as their vegetables grow, they'll let at least some of it go to seed and donate the seed back to us to keep the seed library going.
Then there's the pollinator garden.
The honeybees go nuts for it.
And get this,
the honeysuckle's actually blooming over here.
They have hives too, and even provide a bee encounter program where you can be in the know.
Then when we got the honey and started doing free honey tastings, that's when we can say, and these came from our bees. Oh, you have bees? I'm like, we do, and there's a wonderful storyboard out there so you can learn about bees. And we have some great books in all 3 departments that you can learn about bees.
It's a community effort, planting seeds to educate the future.
Needless to say, the Fairview Library is doing a lot in their community, and chances are yours is too. In fact, you can see what your local library is doing by logging on to georgialibraries.org.
Well, we here at the show love seeing the next generation of ag communicators thrive. That's why we want to send a big congratulations to our friends at ABAC on the launch of The Paddock.
Yeah, under the leadership of Dr. Austin Moore, this student-led news program is giving future ag journalists and broadcasters real-world experience while keeping viewers up to date on agriculture and ABAC news. So be sure to check it out each week through April at watch.abac.edu.
Should we be worried?
Yeah, those kids, they're pretty talented.
Totally agree. Hey, before we run out the door, do want to remind you that for all the latest ag news regarding food, recipes, and what's happening on Georgia farms, be sure you check out all of our social media platforms, including farm-monitor.com. From all of us to all of you, take care, stay safe, and we'll see you next time right here on the Farm Monitor.
Have a great week.